Did you know you're not supposed to play piano with your fingers? And you're like, say what, Tim? Okay. I know what you're thinking. Yes, you technically have to press the keys with your fingers. But what if I'm talking about more so right now is using your arm weight to get sound out of the piano rather than using your finger strength. By using your arm weight, you're going to have a lot more control over your dynamics, which is going to result in your music sounding a lot more alive and a lot more vibrant. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to play the first few measures of for release just using my fingertips first. As you can tell, the dynamics weren't really there. It sounded rather robotic, and it was straining on my hands. Now, I'm going to show you with the arm weight. Much better. As you can see, there is a lot less grippiness here and a little bit of movement here. You don't want to be lifting your hands up as high as you can. It's really just a gentle drop down on the keys. Like I mentioned before, you're going to avoid a lot of strain because your hands aren't going to be activating their muscles. Really, the arm is going to be doing a lot of the work. Playing with just your finger strength is one of many bad habits that piano players have that's messing them up. And in the rest of today's lesson, I'm going to be introducing you to what the rest of these habits are, as well as what to do about them. Here at Piano Teacher Tim here, and speaking of which, how should you be practicing getting better at your arm weight anyway? Okay, I have 3 things I want you to work on. Number 1, remember to let gravity do the work. You're not forcing your fingers down into the keys. You're just like kind of letting them drop. Second, your finger muscles should be relaxed when you play. Hold out your hands like this, stretch them out, and relax them completely. See how gravity automatically kind of makes them naturally curve? That's generally how your hand should be all the time when you practice. Now, I know sometimes you'll have to reach octaves and things like that. You'll have to stretch them out this way, but it really should never be a type of gripping thing. That's going to wear out your hands really fast. Solution number 3 is you might have trouble integrating this into the pieces that you're currently working on. So try it with like a scale or something like that. See if you can just kind of drop in and play with your arm weight rather than the alternative. Again, robotic and hard to play. Bad habit number 2 that you're making is that you're picking pieces that are too difficult for where you currently are. I know. You want to play your favorite piece. You want to play the Hannah Montana theme song so bad, but you have to wait, okay? Or the iCarly theme song, whichever one. You need to be patient, and you need to start from the beginning and work your way up to where you want to be. What are some solutions for starting at a place maybe you shouldn't be? Okay, to start out, you want to start out with some sort of lesson book, or maybe taking lessons from a teacher or some sort of course. For lesson books, I recommend the Alfred series. They really haven't steered me wrong, I guess I'm trying to say. They introduce you piano from the very beginning, see, using your 5 fingers, things like that, going on to very simple pieces, and then eventually working your way up to some real good ones. He's got The Whole World in His Hands, The Entertainer, pretty cool. So you want to get a lesson book if you want to learn from the beginning, but that's not the only choice. I have some courses, once this lesson's over, of course, over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com, where you can learn piano from the beginning or a lot more other things. The second solution I have for you is when you're picking a piece, right, there really ideally shouldn't be a lot of things that you don't understand in the piece. Say you're working on Old MacDonald. See how it looks. See how much black ink is on the page? Now, your next piece probably isn't going to look like this. As you can see, just visually, that's a big step up. If the piece you're working on is like this, which is like a nursery rhyme, the next piece you should work on is like this one. It looks pretty similar. It might introduce you. I would actually learn this piece first and then this one, since this one's in the key of G. But anyway, either way, you can see that they're both pretty similar in difficulty. And when you're choosing pieces, especially if you don't have a lesson book, you want to be really on the lookout for overshooting. Now, here's the thing. Each piece you learn should introduce you and challenge you just outside of your comfort zone, but it shouldn't be way outside. You will actually give up, get frustrated if you do that. The next tip I have for you is you can actually find easy versions of a lot of popular piano pieces. For example, the Nocturne in E flat major, as you can see, I already looked it up, has an easy version. In fact, most pieces do. And while this one might not sound as awesome as, you know, the full version, it does sound pretty good and pretty close. Let me show you. So you can see that the structure of the piece is there. It still sounds like the Nocturne in E flat major, and it's heck of a lot easier than the real version. You might have to work your way up easy into the easier stuff, but it is something you can learn like as a stopgap between what you really want to learn, just to kind of keep the motivation high, being like, oh, I can play for Elise or this other piece. It might be a simpler version of it, but who cares? It sounds cool, and you're able to play it. The next bad habit, you're not going to believe this, is poor posture. Maybe you've heard your parents or your teachers tell you about posture before. First of all, having bad posture, especially after like hours or maybe even a half an hour playing on the piano, you are going to feel it in your back. And actually, if you do that for years and years at a time, not only will you look like you're depressed because your head is down, but you will begin to really feel that back pain over time. So sit up straight. Let me show you actually a couple more points on posture. Okay, so when you're sitting at the piano, you want to be sitting up straight, however, and your arms at your side. You don't want your shoulders up like that. You see how I have that? That is a good view for that. And you want to have your arms gently at your side. And again, your hands relaxed. You see that? I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Just this. Remember that you use arm weight while you play. And every once in a while, like just through the first few measures there, I found myself sinking a little bit. So you're going to have to remind yourself to sit up straight. I have some solutions for this posture thing just for you. Number one, get a mirror and put it close to where you practice so you're able to see and adjust as you go along. Like I said, this happens to everybody. As you say, even at your computer it probably happens, right? You have good intentions when you begin. And like I said, by the end of it, you're like, oh no. So make sure you have something to where you can double check. Say you don't have a mirror. Mirrors can be expensive, hard to hang, whatever. Your cell phone. You know, set up your cell phone in a place where you can either see yourself in like a portrait view, like see yourself back in real time, or if you could record yourself, you know, watch it back after the fact, be like, oh, I was starting to slouch here, you know, or maybe I thought I was sitting up straight. Really, I was a little bit crooked or something of that nature. All right, let's get on to the next bad habit. The next bad habit is ignoring difficult passages and faking it through your rhythms. We all have places in our music. You can see I've circled some that give us an extra hard time. Actually, I'm going to use this measure right here as the perfect example with that turn there. You know, one thing that I always did when I was learning piano is I would play the measures like coming into it. They would be great. And then I would do something weird once we got to this difficult measure. Let's see if you can pick it out. I got through the measure right, but did I play it right? No, I just kind of fudged the rhythms. I just played like 4 quarter notes and some notes in some of the right notes in the right hand, and I was able to get through it. Please don't do that. You may think that other people can't pick up on when you do that. Trust me that it's more obvious than you think. So please don't skip over that difficult stuff. And also, let me ask you a question, a heart-to-heart question. I want you to answer this in the comments maybe. What is the point of practicing if you're not going to fix the mistakes? The answer is there is none. If you practice the same stuff and only practice what you're good at over and over, you are wasting your time. I got some solutions for you. Solution number 1, mark down all of your difficult passages. So like that measure I messed up right there, I'd mark it down and I would start my practice session from that area. Next, I would go through that problem area with what they call a fine-tooth comb, but what I mean by that is just playing it really slow, methodical, really figuring it out. And then last, once you got it figured out, see if you can add it in context with the rest of the music that you're playing. This next tip you probably haven't heard anywhere before, and the next big mistake or big bad habit you have is that perhaps you're not humble enough to slow things down and relearn something. Once you've been learning something for a while, you develop sort of an ego about it, being like, oh, I've been practicing it for this long, and I know where all the mistakes are, and I know all this stuff. And, you know, it comes to a time where you're still got like some mistakes in there. Maybe you're trying to get it recital ready. And there's only one solution to get it recital ready, to get it perfect, and that is to actually slow it back down. Sometimes you just got to get over your ego and be like, you know what? I'm going to go back in the trenches. I'm going to go back, rework the rhythm. I'm going to go back, slow it way down, and I'm going to get this thing perfect. Rather than just playing it full speed, being like, oh, I can play it full speed, blah, 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 la, la, la. You got to slow it down and get over your ego. Solution: make slow practice regular practice. You should really only be playing things full speed, maybe like 10% of the time. I would play something at full speed maybe towards the end of the practice session after you've been working on it, just to kind of see what happens. But most of the time, a serious 90% of the time, you should be playing slower, not faster. All right, we got another bad habit ahead, but now I want to talk to you about the power tip. Today's power tip is to practice at the same time every day and make piano practice a habit. Just like brushing your teeth, right? You probably brush your teeth when you first wake up, probably when you go to bed. Well, piano practice should be about the same thing. Like, oh, after lunch I have time, or before school. It should be the same time every day. And actually, you're going to get better results if you can manage it. If you got a busy schedule, you got to practice when you can, but try to practice at the same time every day. The next bad habit is ignoring the essentials. But what even is that? Well, I'm talking about things like music theory, chords, scales, arpeggios, a lot of those rudimentary things that we need so well. Ear training, a lot of students don't practice ear training, so make sure that you're practicing a lot of these things and don't ignore them. For example, let's just take scales for an example. There's a reason we learn our scales, and it helps you develop very simple hand coordination between both hands. It introduces you to finger crossings, and it helps you learn the layout of all the keys or key signatures on the piano. That's just one example. I could go through with chords and all this stuff. So please do not ignore the essentials. This channel is all about giving people practical piano advice. And if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit subscribe for more. Another bad habit, and this one is probably gonna break a lot of people. It's poor finger technique, using the right fingers at the right time. There's a purpose behind that. It's going to allow you to play up and down the piano more effectively, play more musically. Again, just going to the most simple example I have is a scale. If I just start with finger 1 and I don't do any finger crosses, well, I'm in big trouble here. I literally cannot finish the pattern of notes, whereas if I use the correct fingers and the correct crossings, I can play it no problem. And this translates into your music big time. And actually, if you've been working on a piece for a long time, it hasn't been getting any better, chances are you want to go back and check your finger technique. Now, how do you get better at finger technique anyway? I get that question a lot. Okay, solution number 1, please learn your scales, your arpeggios, and other rudimentary exercises, maybe like Hanna. Because a lot of the basic finger techniques you're going to be learning with these exercises are actually going to carry over in your pieces. You're going to have scales in your pieces. And guess what? If you have a C major scale in your piece, you're going to be using the C major scale fingering. If you have a C major arpeggio or whatever arpeggio, you're going to be using the fingering for that. So learn those rudimentary things and apply what you learn. That's where I would start to the pieces you're learning. Another tip I have for you is to experiment around with different finger combinations to find the one that works best for you. And the third tip, which is most important, or the solution, is to write down the finger numbers in your sheet music, especially in sections that are giving you a lot of trouble. That way you can repeat the same pattern over and over again. If you haven't really been keeping track of what fingers you've been using and using something different each time, trust me that this is not going to work out for you in the long run. So please write in your finger numbers and all the other stuff I said. Okay, before the final bad habit, I have a question for you that I want you to maybe leave a response in the comments because I like when we all get together and learn together. It's a lot better of an experience that way. And I always love to just see what you think. My question is, which of the bad habits I talked about today are things that you personally struggle with? You know, is it slouching? Is it trying to play things above your level? Is it the first thing we started out with? Don't use your fingers on the piano. Which of those maybe surprised you, or which ones do you think give you the most trouble? And then, if, say, you kind of know about all these habits already, what are some habits that I should include in a future lesson? Your response, you may be surprised to find your response in a future lesson. So let me know in the comments. Okay, on to the final bad habit of today. Are you ready for it? The last bad habit that piano beginners make, or piano students make, it's really messing up their progress, is not watching more lessons, but specifically, I have a playlist of lessons about bad habits, mistakes, either with your piano playing, rhythm, sight reading, all the things you need to be a well-rounded musician. I'm going to put all the mistakes you need to watch out for. I'm going to put them right here. And then if you've seen all those, I'm going to put another playlist right here. But make sure you check out the ones about all the practice mistakes and things like that. It's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you, yes, you, in the next lesson. Have a great day.